Good evening. Workshop council meeting for City of Copperas Cove held August 19th, 2025 is called to order at 5 o'clock p.m. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mayor Yancey.
Here.
Christina Strophus.
Here.
Rita Hogan.
Here.
Sean Elzona. John Hale.
Here.
Del Treadway.
Here.
Vanya Hart.
Here.
Jack Smith.
Here.
The quorum is present. We move to item C, announcements. Ms. Strophus?
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
Ms.
None at
Hogan?
this time.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ryan?
I've been handed some papers to go over. First, Mayor and Council and our residents, the city's website has been refreshed, and so I encourage all of our residents, Mayor and Council, for y'all to go and check out our new website. It is much cleaner, it is less cluttered, and easier to find information. Also, Keep Copperas Cove Beautiful is initiating a new program. It's called 10 on Tuesday, and it's simply make a difference on Tuesday. Go and pick up 10 items on Tuesday, take a picture, send it to Keep Copperas Cove Beautiful on their social media page, and we'd appreciate that and us taking care of our own city. And then lastly is the street maintenance utility town hall meetings. So this was previously discussed with City Council over the several months, and we have a number of town halls that are coming up in September. And for residential, those are September 8th, 10th, and 23rd at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. September 27th at 10 a.m., that's a Saturday, here in the council chambers. And then we have 3 town halls specifically for commercial businesses, and those are going to be on September 6th, September 5th, and September 24th. Information is on the city's website for that street maintenance utility, and all the information that has been shared with City Council, as well as the information we'll go over during the town halls.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. John?
I have nothing, sir.
David?
Nothing, sir.
I
Bonnie?
have no announcements.
Jack?
None.
Okay. Excuse me, there's no item D tonight, so we move to item E, workshop items.
Discussion and direction regarding the Church Mountain Volunteer Annexation and Development Agreement between the City of Copperas Cove and WBW Single Development Group LLC, Series 144, and WBW Investment Solutions LLC, Series 011. Bobby Lewis, Development Services Director.
Mayor and Council, I'm just going to give a quick introduction. Bobby's going to do like all the heavy lifting and go through all of the history and stuff. But I just really kind of wanted to lay the foundation of why we're here. We have not had this type of discussion with City Council, and one, in a very, very long time, but two, it is unique because we have a subdivision ordinance. And that subdivision ordinance provides all of the requirements for how land can be developed within the city limits. The property we'll be looking at is outside of the city limits. And so in the discussions that we've had with the developer, staff has taken that into account, including all of the previous discussions, comments, and guidance that City Council has provided over the past few years when it comes to what a development should provide and include, and what the standards are that you as a council would like to see in future larger developments. And so just to mention a few of those, Creekside Hills, Heartwood Park, Heritage Place, all of those have had different components that you as council have specifically talked about on the dais about the standards within those developments. And our subdivision ordinance doesn't capture all of the comments that you as the council have made during the discussions of those developments. And we have had the discussion of responsible development and ensuring that that development fits within our city and provides the services that our residents expect. Or once they move into those neighborhoods, they call us and they say, well, why isn't this here? And why isn't that there? And why did you decide to put this street here and that sidewalk there? So taking into all those different things, facets into account through these discussions. And I will say with the developer, we've talked about this for about 5 years, but we have made tremendous strides from the beginning till now. And we are down to, quite honestly, a handful of decision points that we're looking for council to provide some direction on. And so I will be asking council to provide direction tonight on these items. You have been informed of a number of development concerns throughout the city. We have provided all the information that's on the agenda well in advance, and I know it's a lot. And Bobby provided a whole lot of information. But it's been a very collaborative effort with WBW Development and trying to move this forward so that we can get to the point today, so we can just get these few things taken care of and get some direction on so that we can help move forward with WBW on this development. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bobby.
Thank you, Ryan, and Mayor and Council. Since March 31st, 2020, staff has been working with the Church Mountain developers on a volunteer annexation and development agreement. Their initial proposal was for a master plan community consisting of 1,087 single-family homes with various lot sizes, housing product types that included amenities, future parks, playgrounds, and hiking trails. At that time, staff informed developers about off-site utility lines and roadway improvements that were needed. The developers were to look at estimated costs associated with the possible future agreement, including roadway improvements along Lutheran Church Road. Staff noted that Lutheran Church would be considered a major collector roadway to accommodate 4 lanes of traffic. Since the initial meeting over 5 years ago, there have been, now of this afternoon, 32 meetings devoted to this development. On August 31st, 2023, developers submitted a major preliminary plat for Church Mountain consisting of 1,263 single-family residential lots on 310.14 acres. On September 5th, 2023, staff held a plat and plan review meeting with developers and provided them with several comments. On September 19th, 2023, the developers requested that the preliminary plat for Church Mountain be withdrawn. On November 7th, 2023, Church Mountain developers contacted staff wishing to rekindle the conversation about the volunteer annexation and development agreement and continue discussions since the withdrawal of their preliminary plat application. On December 19th, 2023, staff held a plat and plan review meeting with Church Mountain developers and provided comments and suggested revisions to the initial draft of the development agreement. On February 27, 2024, the request for Church Mountain developers requested an executive level meeting with the city manager, development services director, public works director, the city engineer to discuss progress on the annexation and development agreement. Developers presented their pro forma financial projections of costs and benefits to the city. During discussion, the city manager pointed out to developers that their pro forma projections do not take into consideration the lost revenue from the disabled veterans tax exemptions. On May 21st, 2024, Church Mountain developers provided another update layout in response to, in the response letter to staff comments provided to them on February 9th, 2024. City staff provided comments following review of the developer's response letter on May 21st, 2024. It was mentioned in the city staff's letter and comments and intended to be, that the comments are intended to be comprehensive, constructive to move the project forward. On July 16, 2024, city staff held a DRC meeting with developers of Church Mountain to discuss the latest proposal that included a roundabout exhibit at Lutheran Church Road. It was agreed that the roundabout sizing will be determined by a traffic impact analysis, or a TIA. Also, the roundabout placement aligns with the city's future thoroughfare plan, and no additional land is needed through either eminent domain or purchase by the developer. On December 16, 2024, developers submitted to staff their proposed draft of Church Mountain Development Agreement, a Church Mountain PD Overlay District, a conceptual master plan number 4. Development service staff at that time submitted made comments on the meets and bounds description for each phase, which did not match Coryell County's records or omitted property owned by the developers in Phase 1. On February 7, 2025, city staff provided a letter to the developers illustrating an overall synopsis of events that have occurred over the past 3 years of negotiations. On September 25, 2025, the developers submitted their response to staff comments, provided a draft Church Mountain Development Agreement, which is attached to the report. The developers emphasize the scope of the TIA, or the Traffic Impact Analysis, will need to be agreed to. On April 24, 2025, developers submitted for staff review the latest draft of the Church Mountain Development Agreement, revisions to Church Mountain PD Overlay District, conceptual amenity plan, a conceptual phasing plan, a conceptual streetscape plan, and a conceptual master plan number 5. On May 19, 2025, staff provided developers with development agreement markup comments and additional references to paragraph numbers. On June 18, 2025, developers requested the city staff to schedule a city council workshop to discuss the Church Mountain Development Agreement and the few remaining items that need to be discussed with council and get council's direction. On July 22nd, 2025, the city staff held a DRC meeting with the Church Mountain developers to discuss a comparative illustration sections providing in the agreement that shows the city's position and the developer's position on remaining items prior to the city council workshop. Since the withdrawal of the Church Mountain preliminary plat, city staff and developers have diligently worked on a development agreement that is viable, equitable, and sustainable for both parties. The remaining following items are here for discussion. Now, you'll see there's 7, and I just heard tonight that items 6 and 7 are agreed to by the developer. So we're going to talk about the remaining 5. And number 1, city does not agree to strike indemnity and hold harmless language, as only the developer can control who they convey interest to in the future. This language protects the city from frivolous litigation that could result. Number 2, the city reimbursement of $173 an acre up to $53,654 after the CCN transfer is complete. The developer pays up front. The city does not support total reimbursement to the developer. The developer accepted but wants to terminate costs if they exceed $279 or $273,126 plus the CCN acquisition costs. The developer wants to be reimbursed for the entire CCN transfer expense. Number 3, the city's position is that traffic impact analysis must be submitted in Phase 1 per TxDOT standards. The city has to review and approve if those impacts will be conclusively established through the TIA, which will apportion the relative requirements and associated costs, along with the projected timing of those improvements that will be needed based on the developer's progression. Church Mountain should be responsible for the total impact of its development and the development as the development proceeds, especially on those areas identified in the traffic impact analysis. Additionally, the city needs the developer's commitment to provide funding for its proportionate share of these improvements, which can be timed as a development is developed, as a property is developed, excuse me. Number 4, the city added the developer further agrees and commits to design and reconstruct the portion of Lutheran Church Road to expand the same to the arterial roadway for the location of the roundabout southeast to the intersection of Lutheran Church and Summers Road. The developer agrees that said commitments to the cost of these improvements, provided that this section shall be governed by the proportionate findings of the traffic engineer in the traffic impact analysis. The developer does not agree. They wish to construct what their subdivision warrants inside their subdivision boundary. Developers will include the portions within the TIA, but any construction off-site to the intersection of Lutheran Church Road and Summers Road is not within the scope of what the developer can do. Number 5, and the last one, the city's minimum width for pavement must be indicated and exhibit revised to reflect the new cross-section configuration proposed for the major collector section and the alley section. Developers have provided an update, and that was passed out to you tonight. That reflects a minimum paved width of 44 feet, as shown in the major collector exhibit. With that, city staff and developers are seeking city council direction on the Church Mountain Development Agreement. The developers are here in the audience, and they're ready to speak to council when they're called upon.
All right. Before, ask the developers to come up, and does any council people have any questions? Okay. So I would ask who's ever representing the developers for Church Mountain to come up, and if you would like to address each one of these issues directly, and then we can proceed from there.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Ronan O'Connor. I'm the VP of Development for WBW. And like Bobby and everyone has mentioned, we've had a long slog for many years, but I think we're really close. It's been a great collaboration between city staff and us, and we're trying to ultimately put forward a subdivision that is multi-generational, sustainable, open space, and is going to serve the city well into the future and well into the future. So, as Bobby mentioned, items 6 and 7 we agreed upon. We met earlier today, and we've come to a decision on those. And I'll just quickly go through items 1 through 5. The first one is striking some of the legal language, and from our point of view, what we'd like to see is the city's attorney and our attorney meet, try and come to a resolution on the language. Instead of making a decision here quickly tonight, just let those guys talk, see if they can come up with exactly how that language should be in there so it protects the city and protects us as we're moving forward. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to meet and discuss and come to that resolution.
Has that been requested before?
Yes, the developers have requested that it be between the attorneys. I was hoping that our attorney would be on our meeting, which I expected, and I do not see that he has joined yet. So at this point, I'd have to say probably the attorneys should talk. I will say that from a staff perspective also, while respectfully we understand WBW's position, that is standard language that we use in many of our other contracts.
Right. Okay. All right, council?
I'm okay with the attorneys talking and hashing it out.
I am as well.
Might as well. Anybody else? Consensus?
Yeah.
And I guess we're just gonna go down each one of these items and then
Okay.
look for consensus and then go from there.
Okay?
All right, so we're gonna have the attorneys meet and see if they can't hash it out, spend some more money.
Okay. I'll move on to item 2 then.
All right, we'll move on to item 2.
So this concerns the CCN transfer. It'll be transferring from Kempner into the city, and at the moment Kempner charges $800 an acre to transfer. It's around $249,000. The city does have a standard rate of $173 an acre that they pay, and then the rest is made up by the developer. So that'd be around $50,000 for the city to pay, and then the remainder for the developer. What we're asking is for the city to pay for all of the CCN transfer. And the reason behind that is we're putting up front millions of dollars in infrastructure that's ultimately going to be handed over to the city, and we're asking that the city pay that legal transfer of authority from Kempner to the city, keeping in mind that there's millions of dollars that we're having to pay up front, and we just asked for the city to pay for that legal transfer over.
Okay. In the past, has developers paid the CCN?
So hopefully a short history on this. Prior to about 2016, the city had an agreement with Kempner Water Supply Corporation to purchase the CCN. Now, real quick, what the CCN is that is the right to provide retail water to a geographic area. We cannot sell water to this development until we own the CCN, which is basically like the city limit for water servicing or selling water to that area. So prior to 2016, that was our agreement. And the cost to purchase that CCN from Kempner Water Supply Corporation was somewhere around $134, $135 an acre. Relationships between Kempner Water Supply and the city of Copperas Cove became strained. Thank you, sir. Great word. Strained, and from 2016 to 2018, transfers almost did not occur at all because the city and Kempner Water Supply Corporation could not agree on what that amount was. Finally, in 2018, we got to a position where a developer wanted to bring land into the city's service area because they wanted to ensure that the residents that they were bringing into that new developed area were receiving the city's water supply and service and fire suppression service, because that's a big part of the whole water system. At that time, Kempner Water Supply Corporation decided $130 some odd was not sufficient, and it jumped to almost $400. Forgive me for not remembering the exact amount. And it has incrementally increased over that time. But when it increased to almost $400, City Council made a decision and has provided that decision and direction consistently that we would pay $173 per acre, which is based on the per acreage value of the federal loans at that time that Kempner Water Supply Corporation held. And then the developer would have to pay all of the remaining costs to transfer the CCN, which included the cost to purchase the CCN from Kempner Water Supply Corporation and the legal cost or the application cost to submit the application and transfer that CCN over to the city. It has been that way since 2018, and we've been following that. We've been working with developers, and while completely understandable, developers have not liked it because it is an upfront cost. It has been very consistently explained and followed since then. So WBW's request for the city to eventually reimburse the full amount to WBW for the cost to transfer the CCN, while is to an extent expected, it is not consistent with what council's direction has been and what we have over the past 7 years done with other developments. Hopefully that was brevity, sir.
Yeah, brevity is beautiful. Jack, yes.
Yes. On this comparative chart we have here, it says WDW accepts but may terminate if costs exceed $279,000. Does that mean you're willing to pay up to $279,000 for the CCN and all the related fees? That's the way I read it on this chart here.
And the way it was written there, I don't think it would ever get to that amount just because Kempner set it at a certain amount. You know, our goal is not to cancel this at all.
Right.
And you know, that was one of those terms or that amount that was put in by the attorneys just as to, you know, guard against any sudden increases in prices from Kempner, but I don't think we'd ever reach that amount. So we've no intention of canceling the agreement or the CCN transfer.
Mr. Lewis, the mayor asked, is there a total cost estimated cost for this CCN transfer?
So, yeah, at this time that this number was put together, I think Kempner was charging, I think you mentioned $800 an acre. So that price has changed. Their current fiscal year is every October, and that could increase. This last year, they increased their fee to $900 an acre. And so those costs will change as we have the state of flux that we're in with coming up with an agreement. Those costs will probably increase if I had to guess.
And I would add, Mayor and Council, a potential nuance to this is that state law has also changed. A law passed where all of these CCN transfers must go through the, is it Public Utility Commission?
That's correct.
Yeah, Public Utility Commission, to determine if the value being charged is appropriate based on the PUC's interpretation. So, I mean, it could be a whole lot less. I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna interpret that law when they review this application.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I also see the sheet here that talks about benefits to the city, and the utility fees, I assume they're talking about just water and sewer fees. When fully built out, is gonna be $56,383,000. So comparatively, $279,000 isn't a lot to spend to get that type of committed
What
customers.
are you looking at, Jay?
The last page.
Oh, okay.
It's close to the last, they're not numbered.
Last page.
There we go. No, third to last. There we go.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I just wanted to see, did you want to respond or say anything with what Ryan has just said and Bobby with what they said?
The way I was gonna respond is kind of where Jack is going.
Okay.
That
Okay.
in addition to us putting in millions of dollars of infrastructure that's gonna be given to the city, over the lifespan of the project, and as you're moving forward year after year, eventually, I think those numbers are from year 20, it's gonna be $54 million in income to the city. So with that taken into consideration and the amount of money that we're putting up and all the infrastructure that we're putting in the ground, that's why we're asking for the city to pay for the transfer.
Can I have some clarification on this development annexation agreement comparative chart? It says WBW accepts but may terminate if the cost exceed $279. So are you saying that you will pay up to $279 and you want relief from anything above that?
Correct. Well, we're saying that, I guess when it was originally written, and we haven't changed it, it's been, the city paying for all of it's been in the comments on the side, so that was the original language, so we left it in there to know where we started from. So it really would be up to the council to decide if that was a number, but we're asking for city to pay for the whole transfer. And then also, I didn't know that they had upped their fees too, so.
And the 279 is based on 173 an acre times 300 acres.
Correct. Well, it's a little bit beyond that. And, but those numbers now are outdated.
So 173 times 310. It was 310 acres, correct?
Correct.
That's $53,000.
Yeah.
That's $53,000.
So it's more based on around
At the
80,
Which is,
173.
which is what?
It's really based on 900 an acre. Is $900 per acre is $279,000.
Okay.
So that would be their current price.
That's correct.
That sounds like the attorney caught that number increase, so.
Now, the CCN's purchased in acreage.
It is based on geographic area, so there is a per acre cost. So it, if it was 2.5 acres, it's that 2.5 times whatever that per acre cost is.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's based on acreage, not,
the cost
Not
is,
lot.
yes. Correct, not based on lot.
And do we know which fiscal year this fee will come in for our budget? If we agree to do this, which fiscal year is that fee going to fall?
I guess it depends on when this agreement can be finalized.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just curious. 'cause-
Yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, we've been working on this for 5 years. So we're waiting, just trying to get these last few items. Mayor, can we talk about the projected revenue?
Please do.
Sorry. Say that again.
Can we talk about the projected revenue?
Yes.
So WBW has provided this projected revenue chart on their handout that they prepared, $56 million in utility fees. So let's talk about utility fees. Utility fees are water, wastewater, solid waste, and drainage. So there's 4 components to that. This is over a 20-year period. 20-year period, correct, Ronan?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, it's a 20-year pro forma estimate. If there's 1,200 units and they were built today for 20 years, that's a little over $195 per month in utility bills for all of those units, okay? And that includes all 4 of those different areas, okay? Those 4. Our utility bills are geared towards providing service to all customers. Our utility rates are not prepared or geared towards adding new service area. Do we have to build a system that provides capacity for adding new service area? The answer is yes. So essentially, the capacity that this development will be able to take on is at the cost of all of our current residents that have been paying utility bills for years and decades. This is a new area that's going to be coming into the city limits. And as it's coming into the city limits, now there's a new cost to bring it in. And based on what WBW is asking is that all of us existing customers pay for the cost to bring in those utility customers. And we've just gone through the utility rate study. It anticipated and worked in growth of our city with new population, new residents. And that's for existing services and future planned projects. Does not account for purchasing CCN to bring it into our system, okay? And that is one of the reasons why City Council in 2018 said, this is what we're paying, and the developer will pay the remainder of that. The information that WBW provided on the revenue is great, but it does not account for the expansion and necessary services that are needed for the new development, because all of those are built into the monthly fee that the new customer will eventually pay, but not for the cost to simply have the right to serve water in that area. And so that's one of the reasons. Mr. Osborne, anything else that you want me to add on that? All right, thanks, sir.
I do have a couple of things to add to that. So as a city expands, the old infrastructure is usually outdated design. It's been in the ground for a while, and it's the new developments that they're today's standards. They're not going to need any maintenance work for 10, 15, 20 years. So all those fees that a city gets over that time period with that new infrastructure can get applied to upgrade and fix the older infrastructure. Otherwise, what happens is if there's nothing new that's coming into the system, no new infrastructure, all of the repairs and replacement gets saddled onto the back of the existing customers. But now you have all these new customers with brand new infrastructure. It doesn't need to be touched for years. And all of the money you're collecting from those 1,200 people or 1,200 homes goes to fixing the older infrastructure and replacing it as needed.
Mr. Mayor, I just, a few comments. I agree with what the city manager said. The city's growing, and we know that. There's wear and tear on the old infrastructure. A lot of maintenance that needs to be done. And I don't mind new subdivision for sake coming in. But besides the key points that the city manager hit, with expanding the area, that's more mileage that our workers have to be out there, our city employees have to be out there, wear and tear on the vehicles, the maintenance on the vehicles. That might require hiring a couple additional new city employees down the road. I just can't support the city reimbursing them for the full amount for the CCNs.
Not to mention, I'm going to assume that that would require, that large of an influx would require city services as far as fire and police protection would increase, correct? Okay. Right.
Mayor, yes, and I agree with that. But trying to keep this focused on this item number 2, it doesn't include those general government services. So I fully understand your comment, but just really trying to keep it focused on that water piece so that we can get council's direction on that.
All right. We've got one council person, Dale, that does not support changing staff's position on item number 2. Is there?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I guess Rita kind of asked that, but would you expect to get reimbursed with the phasing as you were building it out all the way through 2032?
Correct.
So the first phase is how many acres?
I don't know acreage, it's around 150 to 200 homes.
Okay. It looks like it's about 25 to 30 acres. So the first phase would be 900 times 30 acres. And then the next year it would be, similar types. They have a total of 8 phases. So if you even divided that up evenly by acreage, that's about where it's gonna come out to. You see, the reimbursement for the CCN purchase as they develop.
I missed that last part you
Okay.
said. I'm
Well, there's a total of 8 phases in the development, so all the way through 2032. So the number wouldn't hit all at one time. It would be phased out as they developed each phase throughout
Sure.
between 2026 and 2032.
Okay, and the point.
Point is, we wouldn't be coming up with 279,000 all at one time. It just,
I don't
it would
think
be.
anybody thought that.
Okay, good, all right.
Do you have something, John?
Nobody knows what the price increase is gonna be from year to year. We're talking about going out till 2032. So how high is Kempner prices gonna go?
Or would the price be locked in on the agreement?
Mayor, if that is the direction council is truly considering on the reimbursement, I would recommend that city council consider a 380 incentive agreement, which essentially this is providing that incentive to do the development. And it could be based very similar on a previous agreement that we had with WBW to oversize a lift station in a previous development they had that was based on a amount per unit or per housing unit that was constructed and the certificate of occupancy was issued for. So if that's the direction, that would be my recommendation. That way, that a house was built, it's allowed to be lived in because it has a CO, and at that point, all of the utilities are being paid, all of the taxes are being paid, all of those things. So that would be my recommendation if that's the direction that council wants to go with a reimbursement.
So there'd be a reimbursement.
Has this previously been discussed, this option?
It has not.
No.
It has not?
No.
Okay.
No, we'd be open to that, though.
Okay.
Okay, so is there consensus for further discussion as far as possible financing options. Did I word that correctly?
I'm good with your wording, sir. I guess what I would like direction on so that we can look at those options is it full reimbursement? Is it only $173 per acre we're reimbursing the developer? Or is it some other percentage, some other number? Because we can develop that document, but we're gonna be right back here talking about the same thing to get a number eventually. And city's position is, the city staff's position is what city council has previously directed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we reimburse up to 50% of the CCN purchase. Because it's actually the city that has to buy the CCN from Kempner Water. They can't buy it anyway. Now, they can reimburse us up to 50% of the price. And I think the Public Utility Commission has got involved because people are overcharging for CCNs, and they may bring the price down if it has to be approved by them.
Maybe.
They're gonna wanna see all the numbers and actual figures.
So we want to look at an agreement, some type of a 380 agreement at 50% reimbursement.
I agree.
I can look at that.
I can agree to that.
I can agree to that.
I actually don't agree. I can't agree with the city. If we've, in the past, not reimbursed, I don't know why we would start now, especially with so many unknowns, moving forward. I mean, we're talking 20 years out.
I certainly don't disagree. But you want to go ahead?
Mayor, Ronan, I don't think it's a 20-year build-out. You said like a 10-year build-out?
Yeah, we're expecting it to be 10
2032,
years.
but-
Those
Yeah, so
numbers there
I
are
think
just
it'd be sooner
showing
than
into
just
the
20
future.
years.
Okay, so reducing it down to only 10 years out, that's still a considerable amount of time with unknown factors on increases in purchasing the CCN and the third party being part of it, the third government entity being part of it. If the city hasn't reimbursed before, I again say, why would we do it now? And if it was already in the language that you were going to cover it in full, I don't know why we would consider striking that from it, if the attorney has already approved it being in there.
Any response?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
As it states right there, we have done $173 per acre reimbursement, but that was when the CCN, it probably started when the CCN had gone up to $300. And as Ryan said, it has gone up every year. And I think that, or correct me if I'm wrong, your plan is to purchase the entire CCN for the entire property right now, so we'll have a fixed cost. We'll just reimburse over the years if you do a 380 agreement as the houses are built.
As they're built.
Is that correct, Ryan?
Okay, so I guess I'm a little confused now.
Okay.
Because your initial proposal was that we would, that,
Reimburse up to 50% as the houses are built.
yes, that we would reimburse, receive 50% reimbursement from the developer, is what you said.
Well, I assume we have to,
They're
I may have this wrong, but we
Which-
have to purchase the CCN for the entire property. Or
Absolutely.
somebody does.
But
They
but
may
it is
pay for it now.
it has been consistently done that the developer pays for it.
Yes,
Yeah,
they're paying
so
for
they
it.
pay, they give us the money
Right.
as the city, because the money has to be paid from the city to the PUC, excuse me, from the city to Kempner Water Supply Corporation.
Yes,
And we, as the city, have to pay the consultant, because the consultant is working on behalf of the city. But the agreement will state that the developer will pay for it up front, so they will pay the city for
yes.
all of that cost.
right.
For the,
And my proposal is to reimburse them up to 50%
as the houses.
as the
built.
houses are built. So you can come up with a cost per house for the CCN and reimburse the developer if we're gonna do a 380 agreement. You're the one that brought up the 380 agreement.
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, thank you.
And just so the council's fully aware, this will change the precedent for all future CCN transfers. And I just want to make sure that council is giving that direction as well.
We're setting a precedent, and we're hoping that at the end of the day, PUC is reasonable in what the assessments might end up being, because it could end up being quite exorbitant,
Could be more.
and we would be virtually held hostage on future developments.
Could we put a limit on it and say 50% up to X amount of dollars?
Okay, I've got a proposal. Scott, hear me out. Scott's concerned.
I feel Scott's concerned.
Scott's headed to the podium, he's concerned.
He's losing more here.
Okay, so here's a proposal. The $173 was derived from an analysis that our engineer that files our applications for us prepared for city council. Would city council be amenable to us asking our consultant to provide that same level of analysis and provide a recommendation of what that amount that the city should consider contributing to the CCN purchase? It's been 7 years, so maybe that number has changed. It might have gone lower, it might have gone higher. I don't know.
Understand.
Yeah, but I think Mr. Osborne was gonna come up here and straighten me out.
Not on that point, and obviously, it's council's prerogative to determine what will reimburse and what will not reimburse, and on what schedule that will be. However, there is one other component to this particular development that I think we need direction from council on, and that relates to how this property all fits together, because originally in the agreement, we have two big parcels of property. The first property, which we call the property. The second property is called the additional property that WBW does not own at this point. They do have an option on the purchase of that. So if we're looking at, and WBW desires to transfer the entire CCN for both tracks in one fell swoop, which makes sense in terms of efficiency. However, should WBW not purchase that additional property, we will have paid for CCN at that point that will not become subject to this agreement. There was language originally proposed that in the event the additional property was not purchased and made subject to this agreement, that WBW would reimburse the city the cost of that additional CCN to decertify that area. And why decertification is specifically important to me, because a certificate of convenience and necessity, as Ryan stated, gives you the right to serve there. Also, it provides you an obligation to serve there. So we'd be obligated to, in essence, provide service outside of the city, but for a decertification process. So I would like some kind of direction on that, in addition to kind of fine tuning what y'all are thinking about on the reimbursement and what that looks like. Does that make sense? Okay.
I do have a couple of quick points to add in. The option on the additional property, January 1st, the price goes way up, so we're gonna buy it before the end of the year. And I think to Jack's point about the 50%, when it was originally set, it was actually more than 50% of the fees at that time. So I think a 50% for what it is today, if we got it in quickly so Kempner doesn't have the chance to up their prices, I'd be open to moving forward with that. Then it's Our intention is to absolutely move forward as quickly as possible once the agreement gets done. Just never been any discussion over the years that we've had this project of not doing it and stopping. You can even see the road layout in there. Essentially ignores that boundary. So it's our intention, we're absolutely going full steam ahead as soon as the development agreement gets finalized.
It still makes sense to put the language in there, though.
I think, Mayor, from a contractual standpoint, intentions and contracts can differ. And it's not that we don't trust WBW, it's that sometimes circumstances
happen.
change.
So we're back to the lawyers and clarifying the language.
I think we can work through that.
Okay.
That's, we're just looking for council's policy direction on whether to make sure that we include that or not.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm too comfortable with the 50%. If we talk about the 380 agreement, can we just look at just that portion of what that just looks like again, without that 50% that Jack is talking about? What else, how else could it look like?
Are you saying full reimbursement
Yeah.
in the future?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just the
50% or it's 100%
100%,
reimbursement.
So 75,
You
okay.
can look
Yeah.
at it both ways. I don't think that's a very good idea, but
No, I'm just thinking.
remember, we are starting to precedent here, whatever we do.
Exactly.
Okay, so do we have direction, Ryan, enough?
So here's what I have, Mayor, on number 2, which is the CCN transfer, that Mr. Smith recommended we work on a 50% reimbursement to the developer as homes are built, and I'm, based on my recommendation, is when a CO is issued. And most of the, there's a consensus of the council for that recommendation.
Everybody good with that?
Okay.
I'm good, I would just like a limit put on it. Because if we're gonna do it at 50% at $900 an acre, and it goes up to 1,200, and the public utility agrees with that, I'd like to put that $900 limit.
I'm in agreement with
450.
Rita. Can we do that?
Does that make sense?
It's gonna, I get that, but I think it's gonna come out whenever it gets negotiated out.
Yeah, well, once
Because
that
this is
purchase
not
starts,
just us coming up
that's the
with an
amount.
agreement.
Okay.
Are we good on number 2?
Got direction?
Okay. All right, 3 and 4, I think, kind of go together, so why don't we talk both of them at the same time?
Sure. So there's a little bit of history. First, if you can see the cursor over there. Future thoroughfare plan shows Lutheran extending through this property and then curving down. So originally, of course, we don't own the property down here, so we couldn't do that. The original plan had a 90-degree intersection here, which of course is not ideal for an arterial road and for a future thoroughfare. So in discussions with city staff, they asked if we would approach, first of all, this property owner, asked for an access easement that would allow that future thoroughfare. They turned that down, and we offered to buy that easement. They turned that down as well. Then we actually offered to buy the whole property as well, and they turned that down. So once negotiations had ended with that property owner, we switched down to this property owner, went through the same process all the way to buying their entire property to allow for that future thoroughfare, and they also didn't want to do it. So we had the idea of changing this 90-degree intersection into a roundabout. And if you've ever been to the Three Creeks neighborhood in Belton, that's one we did, and that's what we're trying to emulate. So it's a very nice roundabout, landscaping. And then the TIA that we've talked about, we'll discuss the lane sizing once we get to that. Then there's a few other things that we included. So we talked earlier about the TIA. If we were a project inside the city limits, there'd be no TIA, no right-of-way dedication. But, you know, we understand, we're in the ETJ, the city's letting us in, so there has to be concessions on our side as well. So the roundabout was the first one after negotiating with these property owners. We then agreed to follow that thoroughfare plan, and even though we're only gonna be required to do a major collector, we're gonna give additional right-of-way along here up to the arterial width. So in the future, when there's enough traffic, the city will be able to go in, widen the road if they need to. There'll be no eminent domain. You know, they won't have to go through that legal battle with property owners. Then in addition to that, we're gonna dedicate this right-of-way here to continue that arterial all the way to our property line. So again, there's no eminent domain the city has to do. The third thing we did was we're going to give additional right-of-way all the way along Lutheran Church to get it up to a major collector width, which is 70 feet. So in the future, when traffic counts warrant, that right-of-way is going to be there for the city, and you can expand whenever you need to. Then as we go on a little bit, we have the internal major collector. Originally, we were looking at using Lutheran Church with multiple entrances. I think there was 5 entrances off of Lutheran Church. But with the roundabout, we decided, let's take all of our traffic, limit the access to Lutheran Church, and change this internal street into a major collector so that all of the traffic, or most of the traffic, will go over to the collector, down to the arterial right-of-way, and out this way. It's the path of least resistance. And we had one entrance here left. City staff asked, we put one more back here at the very, very top. So you can see, if I lived up here, I might go out this way, but the vast majority of the neighborhood is going to use this major collector to get out instead of going through these homes and out Lutheran Church. So we're trying to accommodate that future traffic. We're trying to, in a way, manipulate where all the traffic goes, and also look into the future for that arterial that the city needs. And even though we can't extend through here, we think with this right-of-way dedication to the city that we'll be able to accommodate future growth as we move forward. So just the right-of-way dedications, I believe, are somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 that we'll be giving to the city in that right-of-way. The roundabout here, of course, it's a lot more expensive than a T intersection or just a basic curved road. So that also is another thing to help the traffic flow in the area that's not required of us, and if we're in the city, we wouldn't be doing at all, but we understand concessions on both sides. We did also agree that we will perform a TIA, which isn't required for city code, which those usually run $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And the sticking point is, in the development agreement, city staff asked that we agree to unknown improvements that the TIA come up with. And our point is being, we're already giving a lot of money and right-of-way and improvements that wouldn't be required if we're in the city limits. So we're giving some concessions, and we'd like that in the development agreement, we're not required to agree to unknown improvements. We just really don't know what's going to come up in the TIA. And then keeping in the back of your mind, all of these improvements that we're already doing, they're going to be guaranteed in the development agreement separate from the TIA. And then actually there's a couple other points I wanted to bring up too. We're going to be generating enough traffic for a major collector. From the intersection of Summers and Lutheran over to 116, that pavement width is already there, the right-of-way's there, and there's even a light at Lutheran Church already with the left turn, right turn lanes. On Summers, as you head south, that too has enough pavement in there. It's got dedicated lanes each way, it's got a center turn lane, and when you get all the way down to FM 1113, has a dedicated left turn and right turn lane. So the infrastructure, once you get past this little section here of Lutheran Church, that pavement width for major collector that will handle our traffic is already in place.
something to say from the city side?
Well, I'd also like to invite our city engineer, Lee Ham, up to kind of talk about the technical aspects of a TIA. I think that would be helpful for city council to understand that before we get into the kind of the policy impact discussion. So Lee, can you kind of talk about the technical aspects of the TIA and what we're looking at having done?
I got to get my engineer up here too now.
Oh, do that, go ahead.
Engineers.
It's good.
So I'll try to give a brief discussion of a TIA. The idea of a TIA is to come up and determine what the impacts of the traffic, the existing traffic, and what the proposed impacts of the traffic. They're talking about 1,200 homes. That's using standard traffic counts. That's around 12,000 additional generated trips. That includes like trash services and other services like that, trips back and forth to the grocery store. So that's the additional load that's going to be placed on Lutheran Church Road and Summers Road. So the traffic impact analysis goes through and determines, are your existing streets to the standard that can handle the existing load and the proposed load? And then we'll go through there and make recommendations on whether additional lanes need to be placed in, whether intersections need to be changed to be able to support that, and items of that nature. So, Brian, is that the detail level? Okay, perfect.
Scott, you want to come talk about the discussions that we had on TIA?
We have a lot of people here that all want to talk about this because this is a very juicy topic and has been for the last 5 years. As Ronan kind of summarized, the original implication came up with City Council's adopted master thoroughfare plan, which shows an arterial going through this property at the intersection of Lutheran Church and Summers, and then heading south down to a connection to FM 1113, ultimately making a connection to Big Divide, creating another outer loop or another segment of an outer loop for the city as we continue to expand around the borders to the north and to the west and to the south as we grow that way. So this was one of the major sticking points with that, primarily due to the fact that WBW does not own that property right at the intersection of Lutheran Church and Summers Road. That's a private owner. Despite WBW's attempts, they were not interested in selling that to make a clean arterial pathway for that purpose. So with that, after numerous discussions with city staff, WBW proposed a roundabout, which in this particular application, I think it kind of marries up to the intent of what the thoroughfare plan shows, a continuous traffic movement both onto the new arterial and also up Lutheran Church. That being said, city staff at this point, as Mr. Ham stated, 12,000 trips per day loaded on to, in essence, what continue to be county-sized roads, being Summers and a portion of Lutheran Church until you get to Summers and Lutheran Church. Our primary concern is, upon approval of this development, I need another CIP to make those necessary connection points and to mitigate that traffic that's coming. Ronan mentioned these are unknown. Only a TIA will determine that. Yes, that's true. This is where we assign that responsibility for that risk. The city doesn't know what those improvements are going to be. They don't know what the improvements are going to be until that TIA is completed. They could be, for example, excuse me, signalization at Lutheran Church in Summers. There's definitely going to be a necessary improvement from the constructed roundabout down to that improved section of Lutheran Church, which is one of city staff's requested concessions that WBW has not committed to, basically committing to its proportionate share of what that looks like to make that improvement. So with that, there would also likely be signals down at 1113 and Summers, and potentially the signal at this intersection. Signals, the last time I checked, were about $400,000 per intersection. And that was based on, I think, numbers probably from about a year or so ago when you talk about signalizing an intersection. So all of this adds up very quickly. The city acknowledges that. However, what necessitates those needs?
Right.
City staff's perspective is, but for this development, those are not necessary. Those do not need to be borne by the city. Obviously, there's two sides of this development coin. However, that's our concern.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
do have a question, and if you can answer it, great, Scott, if you can, I can understand. Does the school district out there own any property?
They do, right across Lutheran Church there, up between, I believe, their second and third connection as you go north on the proposal. So
Okay.
it's right around that area. In speaking with the school district, no current plans, but obviously the school district doesn't buy
Right.
property unless they intend to use it someday.
Right, and I understand that. I'm just.
And this very well may trigger the need. You have House Creek out there, things of that nature. However, 1,200 additional units, that's a lot of kids.
Right, and
So
that's
I'm
not
not sure where they go.
And that's not including additional traffic that might come in from the neighboring subdivision over there.
Right. And just to summarize, the city's not looking for them to, make up for the history of these roads and the impacts that are there already. We've done traffic counts on Lutheran Church. They're up about 1,300 trips a day. Based on the existing pavement out there, it's already at capacity.
Yes.
That stretch of Lutheran Church is at capacity at this point. So as we're talking about 12,000 additional trips, we need to make those connections, or the city needs to be prepared to give me approval to make some more improvements.
A couple of quick points I want to add in. Mr. Osborne's right. There is a certain amount of traffic or trips on it per day now. But we think that with the extension of Ashley all the way over to 116, that's going to take a huge number of trips off of Lutheran Church.
Sure.
We're going to go again. Everyone goes the path of least resistance. Instead of going up to Lutheran, now they've got a direct access down in the center of their neighborhood. So we feel like, yes, we are putting 12,000 trips per day on there, but there's also going to be a huge reduction of trips on that road prior to us ever developing. Those 12,000 trips don't happen overnight. They happen, per phase. So phase one, if it's around 200 homes, that's 2,000 trips a day. And it'll progressively get more, but again, we're having a great reduction of trips anyway because of the CIP and Ashley extension. And just one other quick little thing. So we've already, we've maxed out the budget, and city staff and I, we've talked about the linear park we're doing, the ribbon park, the trails, the 20% open space, the right-of-way that we're dedicating. If we start talking about the improvements outside and beyond on the roads, then at some point we need to start reducing what we're doing internally. Because, unfortunately it's not unlimited and we can't do everything everywhere. So it's how do we deal with that balance between what we're providing as amenities for the city and the residents and the outside improvements on the roadways.
Scott, let me ask you a quick question. Summers Road, it's a county road right now. It's gonna have to be expanded from 1113 to Lutheran Church Road in addition to handle what this is gonna be. So that's another cost the city will have to bear.
The TIA will really determine the scope of any improvements that are necessary. And as Ronan stated, all of this doesn't come into being in one fell swoop. You know, we have 8 proposed phases. They have a build-out schedule of 10 years. I think it'd probably be around a little bit longer than that, probably 12, 13 years before you see that full impact. But as part of scoping a TIA, as staff proposes, we could potentially really time some of those contributions based on the impact that's coming. But again, that's going to depend on the unknown. It's going to depend on a TIA that neither WBW nor the city knows conclusively what is going to be in that TIA in terms of recommended improvements and what proportion of that is attributed to this development versus existing and outside future growth in this area. But I think there's ways to get there. Obviously, WBW, like everybody else, has a budget. We have come a long way. However, from just getting through this budget, and we'll be talking about that here in this meeting, I have come to council and received council support for a lot of improvements. A lot of these improvements make up for past sins. So with that, city staff thinks the impact should be addressed by the people bringing that impact.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear from their city, their engineer. I've been trying to pull you up here. No, that's okay.
Hi, Travis Whitus, Yalgo Engineering, sister company kind of WBW Development. You know, I really agree with it. I think they covered most of the points. To me, I think the biggest change that the city's already making in that area is extending Ashley Drive, because right now you can't really see it on the aerial. But if you zoomed out, you'd see there's a very large subdivision. There's Ashley Drive, doesn't extend all the way to 116. So really, I anticipate most of that traffic will be mitigated because they'll just go down Ashley Drive to 116. You wouldn't go up to Lutheran Church, I guess, unless there's, you know, a wreck or some bad traffic for some reason, which hopefully all the, you know, whenever y'all extend that would all be mitigated. And kind of just reiterating Ronan's point, really the way that we approach this development agreement and, you know, how we've got to where we are now is we focused on being able to provide the city the infrastructure that they need within our property boundaries. And we feel like that's a very significant contribution. We're just asking to not have to also address every other issue outside of the property boundary. Because right now, you know, as mentioned before, if you're in the city limits, there's no requirement for a TIA, there's no roadway impact fees or anything like that currently. And I don't really anticipate significant issues mostly because of the Ashley Drive punch through to 116. I think a lot of those would be mitigated. And two, maybe another point worth pointing out is this arterial that we're talking about, the proposed arterial, that is on the city's master plan. The idea is to basically loop Lutheran Church from 116 down to 1113. You know, if, say, we decide, you know, this property is no longer feasible, that would basically push that loop or that improvement some other time. You know, right now what we're offering is being able to give the city that right of way and secure that for the future to make that connection back to 1113. So I don't foresee significant issues. I do agree that there would be an issue between Lutheran Church and the roundabout. You know, if you go out there right now, Lutheran Church is a pretty narrow road. I think what we're just asking for is really in that immediate area is for some sort of improvements, you know, while we're giving in phase one these significant arterial right-of-way dedications and improvements.
Who's responsible for paying for the TIA?
We would be. Yes.
Developer?
Yeah, we've agreed. I think it's a reasonable thing that we can go and study this. That way that y'all know what the impacts are. We just think that a fair solution would be that we address our traffic inside of the subdivision and dedicate for the city's future traffic inside of our subdivision. But if there are any improvements off-site, that the city would handle that. And again, I think most people, if you look at the geography of this area, most people, I don't think would go down to Summers and go down 1113. Most people would go Lutheran Church to 116, because that's really how you get, other than, I guess, if you're going to City Park, that would be a reason to go down Summers, but
Right.
other than that, I'm not sure where you'd go.
Well, I keep hearing a lot of, I think, I surmise, and I'm not just saying to she, I'm just saying everybody. So why would this not be a requirement to ensure that everything is being handled properly? I'm missing something
Mr.
somewhere.
Mayor, I agree with you. We have a lot of unknowns. I would rather wait on this section, if, however this works out, until the study's done. We have our side, they have their side, until you've gone out there and driven during rush hours, during the times that the school buses are going through there, the parents are taking their kids, all them streets are backed up. I can't consciously agree to this until I see what the outcome is.
And I agree that Ashley, once that it's extended, will relieve a lot of traffic onto Lutheran Church Road. I think so, but I don't know so. And I think that that's reasonable that that a TIA is done so that we can ensure that all of that's taken into account and applied as far as resources, both city and developer, to get to the common goal that needs to be handled. I don't think this is your last subdivision in Copperas Cove. You want to keep
Correct.
continuing on, and we want you to. So I think that I'm just making my voice known. I don't have a vote in here, or direction, but I think that that's a very necessary thing to have.
Agree?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Jack?
I'm willing to look at the TIA. I do think that, I'm looking at a map right here that they provided us, and if you look at Ashley Drive, when they make the connection to 116, which we have in the works right now, that's gonna take, more than 50% of the houses are gonna intersect with Ashley Drive, which looks like an airport runway out there right now. And instead of them driving up to Lutheran Church Road, they're just gonna cut out to 116 and get on the bypass. It's gonna eliminate over 50% of the traffic on Lutheran Church Road from what I can see here. I mean, it's over 50% of the houses.
But we don't know that.
And I don't disagree with
I'm willing to bet with you too, Jack.
Okay.
So I would say that one proposal that we have mentioned to the city staff is, our biggest concern is having that unknown in the development agreement. But if we took we're gonna agree to do the TIA and the other dedications and roadway stuff, but taking that negotiation from what the TIA comes up with out of the development agreement and put it into the preliminary plat stage, which is pretty common, it's done in a lot of other cities. This is kind of being that one sticking point that's really held us up, is having the unknown being agreed to in the development agreement, but there's other mechanisms and times along the development process and planning process that if we didn't come to an agreement after the TIA was done, you can say, hey, we don't agree to this. So we're really asking just to not have that unknown in the development agreement. Let's take it out, and you've got mechanisms to deal with it after the development agreement's done. Because really, in a sense, this is just zoning.
You have something, Ryan?
Mayor, in terms of that, putting it in the preliminary plat, it all sounds great, but as soon as this property is annexed into the city and it's not in the agreement, it's not a requirement. So then at that point, it's just an ask, and if the developer says no, then the developer's not doing it. And I think the developer has already made a initial statement that they're not interested in doing it, which is completely fine that they're not interested in doing it. There's still gonna be an impact, and somebody's gonna have to do the improvements. And it's the city at some point.
Sure.
And I agree that there will be an impact, an improvement. It's just from our side, already maxing all the improvements out in the budget, just agreeing to that unknown here when we could just shift it just a little further down the process. And I'd be okay in the development agreement having language in there that said, you know, we're gonna deal with this scoping and negotiate once the TIA is done and come to a conclusion. If we don't, then back to the drawing board.
That kind of,
I think
Makes
doing
sense.
that covers both sides, I think.
once you have the TIA done, then you can work on how things kind of divide out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any, I thought that was the whole point of the whole thing, myself.
Agreed. And quite honestly, quite the converse to what Mr. Ronan said, which makes sense. All the unknown then becomes a city of Copperas Cove, a city resident unknown for the improvements that need to be done. So, I mean, it's unknown. Got it. It's really where, who's going to make a commitment to do the improvements?
So I guess the question is, on 3 and 4, is there anybody that is in opposition to the city staff's position? Anybody?
I kind of am, because I agree with them that they can't agree to improvements that aren't even determined yet.
Right.
And I can understand, and I don't know if we need to move the development agreement forward and what's the reason? I mean, do we want to get the development agreement so you guys can get started?
Correct.
And what do you think about it, Bobby, his proposal? I know we see your comments on here too. but-
Well, I've been thinking, hearing the conversations, and maybe present to Ronan and the group, would they consider doing the TIA now up front, prior to going in and agreeing to a development agreement? So that's my question to them.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
From our point of view, we'd love to just get going. Essentially, this is like a rezoning. And if you were in another, several other
You can get a little
jurisdictions,
closer to the
sorry,
microphone. There we go.
several other jurisdictions, the TIA process doesn't happen now. It happens further into the development process. So, from our point of view, it's kind of scary having that unknown in a development agreement when it could be dealt with a little bit later on in a few months. But we're okay starting the TIA as soon as the development agreement's signed. We're off running with it, get them out there, get their traffic counters going.
Mayor.
Yes.
I think Ronan's statement is actually correct. If it was in the city limits and the code of ordinance required a TIA, our code of ordinance does not require the TIA. Therefore, because it's out of the city limits and we're looking for an impact, the only ability for the city to even require TIA and a commitment to the improvements is now, before it's annexed. Because once it's annexed, the
ours.
agreement and our code of ordinance applies, and it's not in our code of ordinance. So I completely understand Ronan's statement, but it's not in our city limits.
And then I think we can add that language in that lines it up, just the way you said. If the city did require a TIA, it'd be a little bit further on, and we can add that language into the development agreement so it matches similar municipalities that do have that rule.
Bobby, Scott, your thoughts on that? Lee?
I've looked at this provision for years. With that being said, I think we could come up and fashion some language, provided that it actually provides a commitment. We talk about unknowns. There's unknowns for both parties here.
Sure.
It's either going to be borne by the city or it's going to be borne by the developer. What proportion is each going to pay? So as we scope a TIA, how far will we go? The impacts of this size of development will be felt around this entire area. But going too far is too far, in my opinion. There are a couple critical intersections that will be directly impacted right outside of that roundabout on the existing stretch of Lutheran Church that will be crippled until you get to the improved section of Lutheran Church. But to go back to my point, if we could come up with some language that, okay, we don't have a defined scope now, however, there needs to be some general understandings of what that will entail, and have a commitment from the developer to participate in those improvements once determined based on that to-be negotiated scope. As Mr. Haverlaw stated, this is the time that we can come to an agreement on this. After we annex this property, other things potentially take over. I've worked with WB for a very long time. I trust what they say. However, my job is to protect this city council and this city, so I need to ensure that it will be followed through should this people change, companies change, etc. So that would be my 2 to 5 cents on that.
Go ahead, Jay.
Mr. Mayor, the biggest concern of the city, I think, right now is that small stretch, and I don't know how many feet is it, of Lutheran Church Road that the city wanted them to try to purchase.
It's around 300 feet.
300 feet. So once you feel like, of course, the traffic impact analysis will do a lot more to tell us, but it's that 300 feet of roadway connecting current improved Lutheran Church Road to.
That's
to
my
this-
immediate
that's your
and primary
immediate- to the
concern.
intersection of some, so
Right.
300 feet.
Mhm.
So can they come up with something in the development agreement that addresses just that 300 feet? Because right now, I think you're wanting them to commit to traffic lights on the corner of Summers Road, and which is a state highway. But, you
Right.
mentioned at one point the impact that could be there.
I'm not looking for a commitment for traffic lights. I'm looking for a commitment to address the unknowns once they're known. To share that risk with the city. That's what I'm asking.
But if, again, that's a pretty broad statement, because the unknown could be the intersection of Lutheran Church Road and 116, or maybe,
Most
anywhere
likely will
around
be.
the city when they're more concerned about the 300 feet. If that's the big concern, the 300 feet of Lutheran Church Road that's not improved, maybe they can come up with a number or say, hey, you'll help address this part. And I can understand them not wanting to build roads outside of their subdivision. They're bringing all these houses to Coppers Cove and all the residents, which we surely will welcome here. There's a 300-foot stretch of road that probably should have been improved in the past, because there's a lot of new development out that way. And I believe that, like you say, the school has a property on the opposite side of the road, and that'll bring a lot of traffic out there too. So, and I have heard them say that they've dedicated right-of-way already to widen Lutheran Church Road all along that stretch, which, again, that's good negotiation by the city part to get that far. But Bobby, what do you think is that the biggest sticking point, the 300-foot?
No, I think the biggest sticking point is the unknowns.
Sure.
And so, yeah, that's
Bobby,
what we're all
you're-
kind of
you're
concerned
You're
with.
baffling us.
And so, yeah, I think the TIA would satisfy a lot of our concerns and also the developers' concerns. Once that TIA is, say, done, then we would know, we could start the negotiations of what areas we willing to pay for, what the developer is willing to pay for as far as those impacts. Other places that I've worked, a traffic impact analysis, a drainage study, all those are required documents needed to know how to develop a property. And so we don't require those things in our code of ordinances. But this is an opportunity for us, because it has to be annexed, to gain that knowledge through a TIA. And I think that particular element is why it's been such a sticking point, because there are so many unknowns. And Texas is growing, Texas is changing. Developers don't have the same parameters to work from. Things are tightening for them, right? So these are what we call growing pains, if you will.
Sure.
And I think to get out of the loop that we've been in for many, many years, yeah, the roundabout, thank you, yep, is if in the development agreement, if we put language in there that aligns with other municipalities that do require TIAs, and it's in that planning phase, I think that's fair and equitable. We're not saying we're not doing it, we're just saying instead of having this development agreement hang up for an unknown amount of time, in addition to the 5 years it's been going, just match other municipalities that already require it. So it's no, we're not asking for special treatment, just we'll line up with what, places like Leander, Cedar Park, Waco's, all sorts of places that require it already, and we're used to doing it. It's just, when we're having it up front in a development agreement and agreeing to, let's say it comes back and says, you need to put an interstate in, just being facetious about it, but so there are mechanisms there just to move it slightly further in the process to align with other places that do require the TIA.
Scott, you have any comments?
At city council's direction, I'll look at any proposed language they present.
TIA, from a time standpoint, usually is how long? How long does it take? So 3 months, 6 months?
So it has to be done when school's in session, so we get a realistic picture of how many cars are going. The counters will be out there for several weeks, and there'll be several weeks of time back in the office for the traffic engineer to determine what improvements are needed. So 2-3 months is usually how long they take.
I'd like to have Lee come up, because we mentioned the TxDOT standards as far as doing a certain analysis. And so Lee, can you talk about that?
Real quick, one of the the boundaries that we proposed was looking out to FM 116 along Lutheran Church and down Summers Road to FM 1113, because those are city streets. Once you get to those locations, it's TxDOT, and making sure that any improvements might be needed at TxDOT for TxDOT roads, we need to make sure that the TIA is done to TxDOT standards. So, but it's the city's responsibility for those 2 streets, and that's why we proposed out to those locations. So,
Is Lutheran Church Road, is that a county road? Okay.
no, it's a city road.
Okay.
And we're good doing it to TxDOT standards, the TIA. We're fine with that.
Okay. Proposal?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I still think the TIA needs to be done first, and I know we've used the word unknown all night, but in the end, the unknown has costs to it.
Any other comments? Any nods of the head, one way or the other? Yes, no?
I would like clarification. Willing to do the TIA,
Yes.
does that also include language of willing to accept responsibility of the impact of whatever the unknowns may be? The subdivision incoming's fair share, not the city's sole taking on the burden of these unknowns?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're good with, we're with our proportional share. And what normally happens is there's a scoping meeting where there's a little back and forth between traffic engineers and city staff, and they come to a resolution, and then it moves forward. The reason that we want to be able to move it to the planning process is because we'd love to get our engineers going, get them working on the project while the TIA, all the counts are being done, just so we can kind of move the project forward and line it up with other municipalities, how they include that TIA in their process. So we're not really asking for special treatment. We're asking just to align with the way other cities implement their TIAs. So, we're agreeing to do the TIA, the scoping, it's just have it in that preliminary plat stage, get the development agreement done, which is essentially zoning, and then move forward, kick off our engineers in the background to start doing their work. And then in the meantime, the traffic engineers and city engineers can look at the scoping and the TIA while the traffic counts are going on.
So
Go ahead.
it sounds to me like you're asking for the TIA to include language in the development agreement that says we're going to negotiate the TIA as part of this agreement after the fact.
It'll be part of the planning process.
Okay.
But the language will be in there that, we've got to get it done. And the city will have the mechanism to say, hey, we didn't come to a resolution on this. We're not approving your preliminary plat. So the mechanism is still there for the city to stop the project if they feel like the road improvements aren't good or we're not doing our share.
Okay, but we've got 4 months before your price goes up on that land you haven't bought yet.
Sorry, what's the question?
That, I just want to confirm that. You
Right,
said the
4
price
months
goes
from
up in
now.
January?
Right.
Okay.
I don't think there's any argument
No.
about putting the subdivision in.
Right.
It's making sure that the subdivision as well as potential future developments are properly addressed.
Correct.
From a city standpoint, and that's our responsibility. So I think that is there a reason, Ryan, and you can tell, is there a reason why we couldn't require the TIA be done while they're working on their engineering processes? Knowing that something might change based on the TIA.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll support Scott's statement. If you give us direction to look at options and language, we'll review that and see if we can make that fit within the agreement in the development process.
Anybody disagree with that? Okay. All right. I think we have direction on that. Then let's move to item 5.
Okay. We did agree in our negotiations to widen the internal major collector. We had it at 34 feet of pavement, which was a parking lane and then 2 travel lanes. City asked that we widen it to 44 feet. We've agreed to do that. The remaining sticking point is the width of the alleys. Currently, city rules require 20 feet of pavement. That's what we're asking for. The city staff's asking that we increase it to 24 feet of pavement, which I could understand that request if we had homes on both sides of the alley, because you have cars backing out and it's difficult. But here we just have homes on one side of the alley, and the city rules are already 20 feet of pavement. That's typical throughout all central Texas alleys, in different municipalities. So we're not really asking for any change. We would just like to keep what the city standard is. We think it works. There was a little discussion on trash, whether it's in the front or the back, and how trash trucks would handle these alleyways. We looked at doing one way as well to help with conflict points there. But, you know, we do have the major collector out front of the alleys, and it's going to be a very unique drive into the neighborhood. But if you look at Ashley, there are homes up front onto the road that put their trash cans on Ashley. So if it was, you know, that situation, the city staff was worried about trash cans on our major collector, our entry. It already exists in Ashley, but if we did move trash cans to the back, 20 feet is more than enough for a trash truck to drive down, especially if it's one way. So we're just asking to keep the city standard of 20-foot alleyways, or the pavement is 20 feet, which is, you know, typical and standard around all municipalities.
Okay. Bobby?
So the reason we're asking for 24 feet, because the alley they're proposing is a primary access for these homes. Usually alleys are secondary access, so secondary to the primary access what they have off a major street. So these alleys at 20 feet really don't accommodate it being the primary access point. And so staff feels the 24 feet would provide enough access. In fact, I live on a 24-foot wide street. It provides enough access. So we just, we came to the conclusion that someone is having, say, you know, 8-year-old's birthday party, where are people gonna park on their primary access? And a 20-foot alleyway as being the primary access is just too narrow in staff's opinion. 24 is the standard for most areas where you have emergency vehicles coming through, having to have the 24-foot wide. Is also enough space to operate our garbage trucks where people get to put their garbage out in front of that area, that 24-foot area, which I do every week and where I live. So we just felt that the 24, say if they did a ribbon curve on each side, and our standard ribbon curve is 2 foot on each side, and they're still gonna have the same asphalt paving width, just adding the 2-foot ribbon curve on each side, you'll have the 24 feet then.
Mr. Mayor? So it sounds like the, what you're talking about, the 20-foot is more of about the city language of saying for the alley. Is that what,
Yeah.
because when the language was, it was just for an alley for 20, as a second.
They're calling
access.
it alley as being a primary street. Their primary street, they want only 20 foot. And so they term it alley. Well, we understand an alley is a secondary access point.
Yeah.
That's gonna be their primary access point.
Okay, yeah, I understand, thank you.
And the one counter I would do to that, say to that is, anytime you have a home that has an alley, its primary access is always off the alley. You'll never see an alley and then a garage will be in the front of the house.
Right.
It's always in the back. So alleys, by definition, that's where the primary access is. And so we're not suggesting anything different than anywhere else. And it's always in the back if you have an alleyway. Engineer needs to say something.
Mr. Mayor?
I would just like to point out real quick, I think Bobby's driving, so the section that we're talking about, the alley width, is really, it's on the major collector. Can you kind of show them where we're talking about?
Yeah.
So, down on the bottom right, you can see that's the arterial that we'd be dedicating coming in. It's really only a short section along the major collector on one side of the street that would have an alley. That's the only alley loaded area that we're proposing. So on one side of the street, you will have access to your house, you know, to whoever would go down the alley, drive into their garage, into their house. The other side, that's a channel that drains kind of out of the subdivision. So one side would be totally open. So that, like usually alleys, you know, you kind of see them, they're double loaded on both sides. They get a little tight sometimes. This case, that's not what we're proposing. What we're proposing is a 20-foot alley in the back, which standard engineering, you know, 10-foot is a pretty standard lane width. So it's really 2 lanes in the back of someone's house. On the front side, we're doing the 44-foot of pavement, which accounts for a parking lane. Like honestly, if it was me, I was going to someone's house over there that was having a birthday party, I probably would not think to go into the back of their alley. I would probably just park on the major collector and walk over to their house. that's kind of I think the point of the 44-foot was to provide a parking lane both sides with 2 through lanes. So,
Also, I'd like to point out at this end here, there's no room for turnaround. And so we would need either a cul-de-sac or a hammerhead design, so a garbage truck could turn around at this point here. And they would essentially have to back out
Right.
this area.
That was one thing we talked about earlier today when we met with city staff, and we're good with putting an alternative access there. Or the alternative is where we have the park there, we can put access through a parking lot. So it's either or. There'll be a way for trash trucks to turn around. They could either drive through if we connect the parking lot, or we can do an alternative turnaround. It's in the fire code where you can hammerhead or some other alternative. So we definitely are going to put something in there. And again, that's another thing in the platting stage where the city can come and say, look, you've got to have some way for vehicles to turn around there. But that's, we'll absolutely put that in.
All right, council, questions, comments?
I have one question. So you've considered trash trucks going in this alley, main road to these homes? Have you considered emergency vehicles? Like in a
Yes.
case if someone had to have a fire truck, multiple fire trucks, multiple ambulances, multiple police cars? You know, would this alley support all of that?
So we actually talked with the fire chief earlier about that. So the International Fire Code says that all sides of a building have to be within 150 feet of a public right-of-way or fire lane. So our emergency access would actually be on that major collector in front. All sides of that building will be within 150 feet of the major collector. So if there was a building where a portion of that building was beyond 150 feet, that's where the city can come in and go, hey, that doesn't meet fire code. You have to do something different than that. Or move that building forward, provide a way to turn around, make it a through street. So there'll be some mechanism there, but we are covered under the fire code, and there's adequate fire coverage on each home.
Maybe I should clarify my question a little further. Has that been taken into consideration from the alley? Like if these vehicles needed to be stationed in the alley, multiple vehicles, would this proposed 20-foot even be able to accommodate that?
So in the International Fire Code, you can have 20 feet of pavement be a fire lane as long as there's no parking allowed on that street, which is what we're proposing here. So if the fire department had to go down there, there would be enough width for a fire truck to get through. But then again, we presume, and the way the fire code is written, they wouldn't have to go down there, but of course, we can't plan for every
And that's
scenario.
if the homeowners decide not to park, what would be in their driveway or on the side of their driveway in the alleyway.
Yeah, it'd be the same as, a public street would have that issue too. If someone parked funky and the trucks couldn't get through, I'm sure they would, the fire chief here. You'd love to just nudge that, put your bumper on it and nudge it out of the way.
We would love to nudge them out of the way.
It would teach them, it would teach them a lesson, right?
I don't think our HR and our city would
Oh.
appreciate us damaging the
Yeah,
vehicle.
we won't tell them. So yeah, we did consider it, and, we discussed it before, but we do meet the fire code.
Any direction, council? Jack?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Jack?
Oh, if you called on me, I'm okay with it. I think the major collector is wide, it's 44 feet wide. 20 feet with houses on one side of the street is wide enough for a street, in my opinion. And there's gonna be plenty of driveway there at the back.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, what are you okay with?
20 feet.
I am okay with 20-foot wide
Okay.
alleyway, the way it's designed.
Okay, thank
I
you.
think it's a neat design and it'll look nice. And people will love living on the street.
Agree with the
Yes,
standard?
yes.
That's the same thing I was gonna say.
Okay.
I I personally, I always enter through my garage, through my driveway. I very rarely park on the opposite side of my house, walk through my front lawn to get to my front door. When friends and family come to my house, they always park either in the driveway or on the side of the road my driveway is at. And we're only talking, what, 4 feet? 20 to 24 feet?
Times, a lot, quite a bit more square footage.
Yeah, and
And
it all
that-
goes back to the budget and all the other additional amenities. And when you add in another 4 in the square footage, it starts pushing the price up, and then we get pressure on the other amenities, so it's kind of a domino effect.
I think there's 6 for the 20 feet consensus, so I think that's the consensus. Okay, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
What it's not showing up there is the alleyway that's on the side of the street that goes into the local street. Is that what we're also talking about, that is counted as an alley? Like, yeah, right there.
This right?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're calling that an
right.
alley too.
Oh, this is a major street.
Okay,
Coming through.
here I have it marked as an alley on the street on my map.
So this will be a
Just that,
street.
just that thin ribbon.
Who did this come from?
It comes across, yeah.
Who gave us this?
Who gave us this?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that's
This
gonna be
right
that
here?
other portion.
Yes,
That
there
would
is.
be an alleyway.
Okay,
here
is
it's
that
like-
the only alleyway that you're considering an alleyway?
So it's all of this.
Uh-huh.
It runs along there, and then that portion to there, and then the little portion down here.
Okay,
But that's the only part on the whole project.
but that alleyway goes into a street, you can go straight into a street though.
And there'll be a stop sign there, you know, and we can stripe it if we have to as well, just to, you know, it's, whenever you have alleys and backs, they're always gonna have a T intersection with the local road at some point.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other? Okay. And items 6 and 7 have already been addressed, correct?
Correct, yep.
Okay. All right. So we
Thank you
had,
for working those out.
I'm sorry?
I was thanking them for working out 6 and 7.
Yeah.
You want to read?
I'm ready to move on.
Oh, I might have changed my mind, but no. No, I appreciate everyone's time. I do want to say that working with the staff's been great. It's, you know, it hasn't been, you know, an adversarial back and forth, you know, which you do get pretty often. And it's been kind of a refreshing change, you know, and I just want to say thank you to all the staff.
All right. Don't you
Okay,
want to
I'm done.
compliment the city council? It'd
Well,
probably be a good
let me-
idea.
Yes.
Just say.
Unbelievable, you're way better than city staff, way better.
All right.
All right, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. All right, the time is 6:53. We will adjourn. We will start the regular meeting at 7:05.